Welcome back to Making Records with Eric Valentine. That's me. I wanted to share something with you. I had a cool opportunity to go and visit with this amazing score mixer. His name is Warren Brown. This originally came through Grace, really, because she had met and made friends with this really incredible film composer named Michael Giacchino. And so we've been friends for a while, and Warren works with Michael. And so through that whole connection, recently we were together, and Warren said, "Hey, you should come by and, check out my setup." And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm going to come by and check out your setup." And so that opportunity presented itself. And for this particular thing, he was working at the Fox Studios lot. There's a mixing stage there. If you haven't heard of Warren, he is one of the premier score mixers, that's doing that sort of thing these days. He mixes, these huge, like, blockbuster films. Okay, I got a short list of stuff that he's done, just to kind of like get an idea what this guy's doing. Okay, so he did like Spider-Man No Way Out. He did the recent Inside Out 2 movie. He did Fantastic Four First Steps, Society of the Snow, the Buzz Lightyear movie, and like Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So, he does tons of these huge blockbuster movies. So dude knows what he's doing. Has been doing it, for a good amount of time, and has a really, really cool, interesting setup. It was really, really fun to go and check this out, because this is not my world. I don't really know much about score mixing, but I was delighted to go and just get a glimpse at what this is about. I do have to apologize for a bit of the camera work. I'm a one-person operation here, and so I was trying to have a conversation with him, pay attention to what he was talking about, and hold a camera the whole time, in one hand. So there's some times where it's like not pointed where it probably should have been, but you can still hear the conversation, and you can mostly see what's going on. Occasionally I'll look back at the camera and go, "Oops," and try and repoint it correctly. But here it is, Warren Brown at Fox Studios, score mixing. Check it out. All right. Well, I have had the incredible opportunity to come to Fox Studios, a mix stage, and learn a little bit about how this works, because I don't really know how it works. I'm usually only working with a couple of channels, and I was invited by this really wonderful, generous gentleman here named Warren Brown. And so, what is the name again of this room that we're in?
This is the McLean stage.
McLean stage.
Yeah, and the Barbara McLean.
And you got to help me with some of the nomenclature here, because this is just not my world. So we just talked about this.
Yeah.
I've already kind of forgot, so I don't want to screw it up. So it's like a pre-mixing phase for just the music part, right?
Yeah, this is the score mix process.
Okay, score mixing.
Yeah, so there's the score processing where they have all the musicians in the room and they record that.
Yep.
And then we take that and then we put all of those hundreds and hundreds of channels of microphones and everything together to create the score, and then from that part we create the stems, which go to the dub stage.
Okay, and the dub stage is where they mix music, dialogue, and sound effects and come up with the final thing that actually gets delivered with the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
and then, but the other side portion of this is where we also create the soundtrack. That if you go into Tidal or to Apple Music or something.
Okay, right.
To get the soundtrack.
So the regular just stereo version that you'd listen to on Spotify comes from this room.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Cool. Yeah. And so. So how many tracks are in the session that you have right here?
Let's see.
Can I show this session? Do you care?
You can show the session.
Well, there's a title on there that I don't want to. Because we can't reveal any of that stuff. You just tell me. I don't want to.
388 tracks.
388 tracks.
But a lot of those tracks are 714 tracks. So 714 is Atmos. So
right.
Those are 12 tracks. So there's a lot. That and
So a portion of those 388 are actually multiplied by 12.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think if you put it out there, it's probably close to about 500 tracks.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
And this is all 96K 24-bit, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that Pro Tools could do that many at that resolution, but
it can. Well, it can.
Obviously, it does.
Yeah, I think they a couple of years ago they changed it so that it was pretty much unlimited tracks. It's like 2,000 tracks or something right now. It's
Even at 96K? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I missed that transition.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. Because I remember you used to have to buy the extra licenses for the extra tracks or something like that.
Yeah.
They
I
just
missed all
eliminated
that.
Yeah.
You know. I've been trying to keep my sessions to like 16 tracks. So.
Yeah, that doesn't work here.
No.
But I'm doing it
even
all
close.
on one Mac Studio.
Wow.
It's
No
all
kidding.
on one Mac Studio.
That's impressive.
So
yeah.
all of everything's running off the internal hard drive, and it's just
Yeah.
I don't have
And
multiple.
Is it a
machines
M3, M4? I'm guessing it's
the M2 Ultra.
an M2 Ultra.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if mine, because I got an early one, so mine might be an M1 Ultra,
Yeah.
but
The jump between the two is significant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this was like 28 chords or something like that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Okay, so then you have, this is one of the Avid consoles in here.
Yeah. This is the S6.
The S6. How much do you actually use this in the process?
Well, I'm not an S6 aficionado
Okay.
because my home studio where I do a lot of mixing, I just have S1s.
Okay.
But after using it, I think I might see about getting one because it's very, very useful. And also the faders are significantly better. They feel
Just-
much better. Just
right,
the touch of them and the way
resolution, the
the
responsiveness.
resolution, the responsiveness of
Yeah.
it. The fact that you can spill things out like here. So if I have all my I have all my rooms and everything, as I can just say, okay, boom, I go there, and I get all my mics. They show up there, and then I can send them over there, and then back and forth. So I can get into individual mics over here and do all that stuff, and then I can have all my sends or EQs pop up here and just do it all manually.
Yeah.
So I don't have to. I'm very comfortable using the mouse, like we all are.
Yeah.
'Cause my
Yeah, I mean that's how I mix.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
use
But
a trackball.
sometimes you get more. I find that if I have faders and I'm comfortable with it, I'll start to get into the groove a bit more.
Yeah.
And I won't I'll use more automation than like LFOs or something like that. Or,
Right.
So like if I want something to move around the room, I'll actually use a fader to move it around the room, or use something to move it around the room, rather than saying, okay, I'm just going to put triangle automation and have stuff go like this.
Right.
As I'll move it by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just becomes more of an instrument to me.
Yeah.
To me. So
Yeah.
everybody has their own way of doing it. No, the other cool thing about it is that if you have multiple machines, is that you can have another machine, like you have a bunch of machines. Like here at Fox, they have a bunch of other machines. So they have a player which has the picture and all that dialogue and effects, and you can say, okay, I want these 3 faders or these 3 faders to always be controlling that machine, that other machine.
Right.
So you don't have to be flipping back and forth. It's like, oh, I want to listen to the dialogue. I want to listen to the effects that I'm mixing against to make sure that something doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
Then there's the power of that. So these S6s are really for a commercial space that has multiple machines, multiple users.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense at a certain
Yeah.
point.
And then here's all your automation. So like a lot of the stuff that you would have to punch through in Pro Tools, it's all just right here.
Oh,
So
okay.
like if I'm doing, you bring up your, was it Command 2 or something like that? Brings up your automation with Command 4.
Oh, okay.
So all
right.
this stuff here is laid out here, but
Right.
even more expanded. So like you've got all your automation lanes, copy and paste, volume automation, copy paste all. So all the stuff that's in those menus
Yeah.
is just right here.
Yeah. Well, it seems like certainly the user experience is important. So like if
Yeah.
it's more enjoyable for you to work on a surface like this rather than just be bouncing around all the time,
Yeah.
that's certainly significant. And then at a certain point, you have to do the calculation of like, does this thing save me enough time to justify the cost of it? You know?
Yeah, well, it's also like the way that we work is that we have a template. Like I build my template at the beginning, and over the first 2 or 3 days of the mix, is the template settles.
Right, it gets refined.
It gets refined. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I didn't like these things grouped together. This thing should go over here. I should actually have these separated. But once that's done, then I just copy the template to the next piece, import, start there, and so it's always just laid out the same everywhere.
Right.
And
Right.
so, especially when I have so many different layers of VCAs, it's like, like I showed you, is I have like the string mics, and that's the strings, close strings are one VCA, but that close strings groups includes my overalls, and then includes my violin ones, and my violin twos, and then it also includes the close mics on the violin ones and violin twos. So
Right.
there's like 3 layers.
And so
microphones.
all of that can get manipulated
Yeah,
from,
so that's what
one fader.
That's what. Okay, that's the strings here.
Yeah.
It just gets manipulated by one fader there. And then the harps, the piano, woodwinds, the brass and the horns, percussion.
Yeah.
And then synths and stuff, so on and so forth, all the way down. And
Yeah.
then over here is I have my reverbs, which are every stem has its own reverb. So there's 10 stems, so there's 10, 7, 1, 4 reverbs going. And so I can control them all on one fader here.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how it gets a lot to try and navigate when you're constantly having to scroll up and down all of these tracks and channels.
And also because of the way this is laid out and the way that I have to do the stems is that I mix through the stems. I don't like stop and then bounce the stems afterwards. I'm making the stems as I'm mixing them.
Right.
So it's like all the stems feed what we're hearing.
You're always monitoring through the stems.
Correct.
Which,
and then
I guess most
print the
people would
stems.
do.
Yeah.
And then the stems, it's all one big thing. All this, the stems get printed in one.
Yeah, so that's what these guys are here.
Yeah.
Go down.
Yeah, cool.
They're there.
Scrolling for
so there's
for a
all
minute.
The stems there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're all just on input right now.
They're all on input, and then it goes to our mix bus here, which that feeds the Atmos here, and then I have a down mix stem there. I just use the Pro Tools down mix. It works great. And
cool.
I used to have a bunch of down mix plugins, but Pro Tool ones works better.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if it works, it works.
That goes out to the Unfair Child. And,
there's that thing. Familiar box over there.
Yeah, and then just a little bit of low end. This is my mix bus EQ.
Oh, okay.
So that's just like a little bit of low end, just because film has a ton of low end.
Right.
So then
all that super exciting sub stuff that can get amplified in the theater isn't necessarily appropriate.
Yeah. So this is like I have a 30 hertz here, and it's a 6 dB an octave, so it's super gentle.
Yeah.
And like at around 200, 205, I have a dynamic EQ here that just pulls down a little bit, not much.
Yeah, for any buildup that happens there.
And then just a little bit of a lift on the sides.
Yeah.
Not in the middle, just on the sides, because I find the one thing I fight against the most is that when you're going from Atmos down to stereo, because a lot of the stuff that's big and huge and wide in Atmos goes mono.
Right.
Stereo, so there's a ton of buildup in the center.
Yeah, it gets a little congested.
And you can't really just take like a mid-side thing and duck the center because you lose too much definition. So there's like a little thing you have to do, and I found for this particular project, a little bit of a lift on the side helps more than a dip in the middle.
Right. So the stereo version feels more immersive.
Yeah, and it does jump out of the speakers. So you know that, and it's this is kind of like what I send out to get approved. So it will go to the composer, and then it will, and then he'll approve it based on the stereo. So make sure he hears everything the way he wants.
Right.
And then it will go off to the directors and the producers, and it goes into the Avid stereo.
The giant democracy
of
approvals.
Luckily, I work with a team that is very, very tight. So I don't have to. I don't have to. Worry
that doesn't get too complicated.
No. I basically it's whatever the composer says that's what goes.
Oh, good.
I don't get involved in the autocracy of everything else.
I had one experience when I was on a dub stage for the first Shrek movie when they were, finalizing having the song All Star and the intro credits for that movie. And it was so funny being in that room, and there was a bunch of studio execs in the room, and this was like the moment. This is, are we done? With this part of this process? And I happened to be there. The director of that movie was very inclusive. He liked having the people that were directly involved in the creation of whatever aspect to be present for some of these decisions if they wanted to be there. And I was like, fucking hell, come and check out the dub stage. And you could just feel that moment in the room where there was people that they just didn't really know one way. They didn't have an opinion, about when we're talking about subtle and detailed sonic stuff. They're asking does this song sound right now in this room, and I was just that asshole that had an opinion, and I didn't care, they asked me to come here, so I was the one that's beep, put my hand up. Nobody else was going to say anything, of course. And of course it was about the kick drum, my lifelong obsession with the fucking kick drum. So, okay, so now I'm curious, you mentioned The Unfair Child. I'm delighted that actually is part of your process. It's very cool that you've incorporated that. But how do you incorporate
outboard
So
gear
all of this stuff,
and all of this. When we're talking about like 12 channels for a surround or a
So all the outboard gear is because there's like some synthesizer aspects there from soft synths and from other aspects, just to give them a little bit more life.
Yeah, a little more color.
A little more color, a little more, just to make them a little more, not necessarily interesting, just to sit in the mix a bit better.
Yeah.
I find that I'm not a huge digital compression fan. I don't know. There are great compressors out there.
I think you're in good company there.
So as you can see, most everything here is I've got the RS660s, which I use. Those are on the organ.
I've never seen those before. So this is another.
So this is Abbey Road.
Another Abbey Road thing. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the Abbey Road stuff.
Yeah.
Just because for this world, it seems to be just voiced.
Yeah.
That way nicely.
And by the way, all the stuff that's being mixed was all recorded Abbey Road Studio 1.
Yeah.
The stuff that I got to hear today, which
Yeah.
sounds unfucking real. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. They did it over the course of 5 days. There's 101 players.
Man, that's amazing.
I think 104.
That's what I really respect about these projects and this process is like how incredibly organized it is. You know, you have to be.
If it's not. You got 100 people there,
right?
And you've got 3 hours, and you've got to record amazing versions of an hour of music.
Yeah. And what is your guess? What is the cost?
30 minutes.
What is the cost per hour on one of those recording sessions at Abbey Road when you have 101, piece orchestra in the room?
I would say it's probably close to $50,000.
$50,000 an hour is what's.
I just a guess.
That's a wild guess.
A wild guess, but you have to think is like every single person that's in that orchestra is the top of the top. So they're all getting triple, quadruple scale.
Yep. They're all amazing players.
Yeah. All the libraries that you're using. Those are the players that played on those libraries.
Yeah.
So like all the percussion guys is like the Abbey Road percussion, all those other percussion libraries that we all use.
Yeah.
Those are those guys.
Yeah.
Those are the originals. Yeah. Everybody that's there is playing is the original person that did all that stuff.
So you have all the musicians you're playing. Yeah. You're paying for the room. You're paying for all the technical people, all the engineers. All of that stuff.
All of that stuff.
Yeah. And that's an insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be.
You have to move fast.
Yeah. And basically, they've never seen the music before. So they get the scores. I would show you a score, but I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
They get the scores, they put the music out, and they read it, and they get 2 to 3 chances. Wow. And then they move on.
That's impressive.
And they nail it. They nail it every time.
I mean, that weeds people out real quick.
Yeah.
Man. Like either you can do that or you cannot.
Yeah.
And if you can't, man, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because like if one of the 101 fuck it up in a way where you have to play it again, you've just fucked it up for the other 100 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no. Yeah. That's a hard filter.
Yeah.
There.
It's very expensive, and the way that he does it is not done that way very often anymore. Like a lot of scores are done.
Because you're saying he likes to have everybody play together.
Yeah, because he finds he gets better performances that way, and he gets more done.
Yeah.
And people are excited to do it. They're not just sitting there playing one note at a time.
Right.
Okay, we're going to do short notes now. Dun, 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 and then
also probably helps with the track count because you don't have to have.
Oh yeah. If I had
the room array for every single pass of every single thing. Yeah.
I've done other projects where I'm over 1,000 tracks.
Oh, that's insane. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, and especially with Atmos.
God.
With Atmos and all that stuff, it's crazy. And the other thing about doing it at 2496 is that it's not so much for the resolution of this, it's that when they take it to the dub stage and they need to do edits, like speed it up and slow it down, that's where the resolution comes in. Big time.
Yeah.
So that when you have to do like pitch shifting and you have to do editing,
right?
Pitch and time stuff.
Yeah,
that's when you really, really notice the difference.
Wow.
2496.
Yeah.
Like if you're just doing straight up recording, 2448 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
But that's a big reason why we do that. And then also, the studios like having the highest resolution that's usable.
Yeah.
We could
you can
do DSD,
call it
or
HD or whatever.
Yeah.
Part
You would
of the
do that.
Marketing. Yeah.
But for a pure technical purpose, having it at 2496 gives the music editors more freedom to make their edits and make it sound more natural.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware that those type of manipulations, either time stretching or changing pitch or whatever, perform better at a higher sample rate.
Yeah.
That is your experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, especially pitch shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're pitching something down an octave, you don't lose those high frequencies.
Ah, okay, yeah, because all the harmonics move, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's for pitch shifting, and then also for
Yeah, I
pitch
guess
and
if you're
time.
shifting something an octave, I guess I was thinking in terms of like, oh, this is a little sharp, so let's move it down 20 cents.
Well, the good thing about these guys is they're on
Right,
all the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and the when we're recording, if they hear pitch stuff, we just do it again. So they'll play the whole thing, and then they'll say, okay, bars 24, bar 56, let's just pick up those little bars there, and then because there's a little pitch thing, or they'll say, hey, we need to get everybody a tune, so they'll play an A440 through everybody's headphones, and everybody tunes to that, and we keep going.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
That's
they're
the real
masters
deal.
at that. But so back to the hardware.
Yeah.
It's like all the hardware, I take the synth stuff and I put it out through there. So like all the compression, I'll just get like just a little bit more oomph out of everything. So
Yep.
And then the curve benders, I just really like that because that's they're just very musical EQs to me. So that I use that, and then the undertone EQ there, I kind of use that. To me, that's like the high end of that. It's super smooth, silky.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that aspect of the EQ. Whenever I'm stuck in the digital realm trying to get something to just shimmer in the right way, I'll finally just go out of the box and I'll find a solution in 30 seconds instead of like 20 minutes of me trying different plugins.
Exactly. So that's exactly the same thing. That's why I have the curve benders and the undertone. And then to me, it's the opposite with the Pultec. Is if I need that super low tight punch, that Pultec, that's the X's, the EPQ, the EQP X's.
Yes.
There's just something in the low end, like the kick to punch.
Yeah. So I have the mid-range version of those.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love. They're incredible, man.
Those are cool.
They made the right choice of expanding the frequency selections a bit, and it has like this. I think it's 8.2K for the top band on the mid range. It's just an 8.2 peak.
Yeah,
it is one of the best presence boosts.
Oh, that's cool.
On the planet, man.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
8.1 on the curve bender.
Yeah.
So that's the story I heard about that. That's the John Lennon frequency.
Oh,
Remember
interesting.
the old EMI boxes? Did
Yep.
you ever see those?
I did see those.
They invented that because John wanted 8K boost.
Wow.
So yeah,
I didn't know that.
that's a Peter story.
Wow.
So,
yeah, we were talking about this gentleman, Peter, who's
Peter
been
Cobbin, yeah. It's amazing.
Cobbin is his last name?
Yeah, Cobbin.
Yeah, that's a very British name.
Yeah.
He apparently has been the head tech at Abbey Road for...
Well, head of recording.
Head of recording.
At Abbey for a long time, and then he left Abbey a bunch of years ago, started his own company. But he still works out of Abbey Road a lot.
Yeah.
He's his own company. He's to me, he's one of the best in the world for recording.
Yeah. All the stuff that we've talked about today is definitely proof that guy is a genius, and a fellow passionate nerd.
Super great guy. Yeah. And then, the Shadow Hills.
Yeah, so what do you like that on?
If it's more of a rock thing, the optical and the VCA are a little bit more punchy. So I'll put that on a drum kit.
Yeah, cool.
Drum kit. Or if there's like some congas or like just really, Latin percussion stuff, I use it on there.
Yeah.
I find that's cool. I swap between these two a lot.
Yeah.
Just because like sometimes this will work better on that stuff, and sometimes
totally.
You kind of just have to do that. And of course the distressors.
Yeah.
Everybody has distressors.
You always just sort of let whatever the source material, the song or whatever you're working on, they'll ask for whatever they want. It'll ask for it.
You can't force it in any way.
Yeah.
And then the Culture Vulture.
Yeah.
Just the plugin's great. The real thing is the real thing.
Yeah, it just has a little more complex. I don't have one of those anymore. I had one for a while, and I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, I got into that like a bunch of years ago when I was doing a record in London. The guitar player was really into it, so we would use that on a bunch of stuff, and I just love it on a lot of different things. And then the UBK thing, I love this.
Oh right, I didn't see that hiding under there.
Yeah, it's not there.
It's cool.
It's pretty fun. I use that on a lot of different things. The de-esser in that's great.
Wow.
So like the tape emulation thing, I use that on like high perk, like chimes and stuff like that, or a synth that might just be a little bit too edgy.
Wow,
just
cool.
to hit it with that. And then if you put it's in my car right now actually, but if you put a it's got a side chain in the back.
Uh-huh.
So if you put a little mixer, like I have a little Yamaha mixer that I can adjust the threshold. So because it's a fixed threshold in this box, but there's a side chain in the back that you can adjust the threshold, so you can
just
hit the
loop
transformer
through another
harder.
volume control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that becomes your threshold. So
that's cool.
You can hit it a lot harder than you can.
Yeah. So
I don't want the compression. I think it's not the bad compression, but a lot of times I don't want the amount of compression that it would give you without that threshold adjustment.
Yeah, if you want to lean it more towards the color and less compression.
Yeah.
So you just turn down the sidechain signal and you can push more signal
the de-esser part of it's not in the sidechain. So
okay.
So you can turn down because it's got a de-esser in there, and then it's also got the it's basically a simplified version of the distressor.
Right.
I might be getting that wrong, but that's the way I think of it.
Well, he's certainly got the same distressor knobs on there, and I believe
it is a David Durr design. It's Empirical Labs, but the guy, the UBK guy, modified it with some different attack and release times.
Right. Yeah, I seem to remember that this was a legitimate collaboration between the two of them. Yeah. That they did together.
Yeah. So I use that in a lot of places, and then I got the Vincent.
Yeah, so that's a new thing.
Yeah, that's the Denmark, the T-Rex one.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
It's pretty fun. I use that as kind of like a final little thing. It's like if I have a synth or something that I want to bounce around the room, is that I'll take a send off of that, send it to the Vincent, and then find the delay time, and then bring it back in, and then use an energy panner is what they call it. This company makes an Atmos energy panner, and then that bounces the delays around the room and they go away.
Cool. Yeah.
Or I'll use it as a slap, like a kick drum for a slap thing in the back.
Yeah.
Just again, some natural, real.
Yeah, there's
delays.
something about that organic stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, music is still can't all be digital.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that
cool.
like everybody's done some amazing work in the digital world, but there's just something about the real thing.
Yeah,
I like.
and don't worry, we did have the conversation about when the levee breaks and the Benson delay.
That was the first thing we talked about. We pulled it up and we played it through the blue horns.
Yeah. Okay, so then the last thing I'll bother you with is the speakers in here, because the room really does sound pretty incredible.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a lot of speakers. You went over this quickly when I first walked in.
Oh, yeah. So in the front there, there's it's a Meyer blue horn system. So behind the screen, there's an LCR.
Yeah, you can't see them. They're behind the screen. But this is a relatively new system from Meyer, yeah?
Yeah, it's within the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so
New-ish.
it's their latest version of what they're doing on. It's their current version. And so they have their own... They have their own box. It's called a Galaxy box, and that does all the time alignment. So it's a horn-based phase aligned system. So meaning that there is a delay. That you could definitely feel the delay. You wouldn't want to track to it or anything.
Right.
But for mixing, it's great.
Yeah.
But all the subs, mid-range, high frequency, and horns, all that stuff, they're all phase aligned.
Okay. And so they're phase aligned. There's probably a phase alignment from the factory, and so do you just?
Well, they come here. And they come when you buy it. They come and they help you install it.
That was my question. Do they ultimately measure from this listening position and align everything according to the installation here? Is that what happens?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. From what I understand, there's obviously we're at Fox, and I didn't design this. This was designed by a guy named Mark Gebauer, and he's a tech here. He's drops in every now and again and say hey.
Yeah.
But he designed it and helped build it. They did the whole foundation thing. They built a new foundation. They did all of the soundproofing. Like basically, if I'm going in here full volume, you're outside the door, you can't hear anything.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, and then so in the front there, and then on the sides, all those
these little wedges that protrude
and
out.
The doors there behind the doors, those are all speakers.
Okay,
and so that's the side array, and then up top there, you have your front ceiling array.
Wow.
Which is basically we're mixing in 714, which means is that we have a 7-1, which is 7 speakers around. The point 1 is a subwoofer, and in this case, I think it's like 4, 5, 18-inch subwoofers.
Wow.
In the front there.
Yeah, there's some big old
JBLs.
thumpers up there.
And I know there's some more up behind there too. But those are the big ones. And then these are an array. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
okay.
side speakers, but that's
that all
that
are conveying one signal.
One signal.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the top there is the same thing. Is that you got your left top fronts, which I think are the first two or first three, and then your left top rear, which are the back three there.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's speakers in this back there.
Okay. Everybody's gonna get seasick by the way I'm moving this camera around.
But Atmos is a two. There's the Atmos bed.
Okay.
Which is 712, which is the 7.1, and that treats the top as just a left and right.
Okay.
So you don't have the front to back in the top. That's called a bed in Atmos. And then,
Got it.
And then the objects are point source. So in the objects, you can actually individual one of the speakers of the array.
Okay.
So in the bed, it treats the size as one speaker. In the objects, you can go to individual speakers. So it becomes much more specific.
Much more detailed.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I'm not.
So there's really different layers of detail in how these signals can get put out in a room.
Yeah, in Atmos. But I don't deal with the renderer because that's all done in the renderer.
Okay.
Because
now another job.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do on the dub stage. Is because I have to deliver the stems.
Right.
And the stems can't be made into an ADM file because you can't unstem them.
Right. Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So because it's just the way it works, and then when it gets to the dub stage, then they'll take the stems and they say, okay, well, we want this one thing to be an object, so they'll take that as an object and then move it around.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a multi-layered process for sure.
Man, it's so complex, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy working with two speakers.
Oh, come on.
That's still complicated for me,
no,
so
it's
I'm
fun.
going to stick with that.
I don't know. I love Atmos.
Yeah, I love the experience of it, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure if I really started to pursue it, I would discover all the things that are
Yeah, if you like
amazing and
you'll
interesting.
spend your life savings on all the toys to go with it.
Yeah, the endless rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for
Absolutely.
Taking the time to invite me over here. I got to see all this cool setup and hear how this amazing stuff comes together. I mean, we all get to hear it in these movies, you know,
massive
all these
theaters.
huge
Yeah.
symphonic.
This one will be out in July.
experience.
End of July. End
Okay,
of July.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, what it is and all that stuff is super top secret, so can't talk about any of that.
Right.
But,
Well, maybe we'll do another one after, and I can show you what it is in more detail. When
Okay,
we got there.
yeah.
But
Yeah, that would be
at
cool.
this point, no.
yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, hopefully we'll get
See you later.
to see you again sometime.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. Man, so fun to get a glimpse into that world. Boy, that is a different beast, I made the comment a few times along the way. It's like just the number of tracks they're dealing with and the number of speakers they're dealing with, all of that stuff is just so complicated, but still really interesting. And the results are incredible. I mean, in this round, because this is, a new movie that's not been released, can't play anything, but I got to tell you, it sounded insane in there. It sounded really, really incredible. It was super cool. I want to just say thank you again to Warren for having me over. He sort of hinted at the sort of invitation at the end there that we could potentially come back and, dig a little deeper into that, be able to hear something, if it's something that's already been released, And so I would absolutely do that if the opportunity comes up. It'd be fun to dig deeper into that whole thing. But thank you for watching. As always, if you want to hear about the, new videos like this when they come out, just hit subscribe. And I will see you on the next one. All right, bye.